it's possible. Stone pleaded guilty to all charges and was sentenced to 160 years in prison without the possibility of parole. Stone was in tears when he learned he'd spend the rest of his life. Stone blamed his actions on drugs, and his show of remorse might be sincere. However, some convicts are rather shocked by their sentences, like in the case of Seth Welch and Tatiana Fusari. This is Seth Welch and Tatiana Fusari, first-degree murder in Michigan. Seth and Tatiana were the parents of 10-month-old Mary Ann Welch, who police said died of malnutrition and dehydration due to neglect on August 2nd, 2018, in Solon Township, Kent County, Michigan. Child Protective Services had been involved with the family since 2014 after THC was found in the system of their firstborn child. Mary weighed only 8 pounds. Her parents refused to seek medical help, citing religious reasons and distrust of the medical system. The family home was found to be unhygienic during the initial investigation, with evidence of vermin, insects, and mold. The doctor who performed the autopsy confirmed that Mary was suffering from chronic malnutrition caused by withholding food and water. 911 revealed their level of neglect for their daughter.
And he said, when you found her, she was already believed to be deceased, right? Yes. And that's when you consulted with a lawyer? Yep. Do you believe she was beyond help already? Oh yeah, she was dead as a doormat.
When in court, the prosecutors made sure to highlight just how of their 10-month-old child.
You didn't know that. And don't tell me you didn't intend that, because you didn't get her little tush out of that crib. You left her in there. You ignored her because she was an inconvenience.
The couple was initially charged with felony homicide murder in August 2018. In June 2020, Seth Welch was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without parole. In 2021, Fusari testified that her husband was abusive and that she was not allowed to take Mary to the doctor.
He got very angry with me. He smacked me across the face and he told me that he knows how he said, "You know what the I think about doctors. I told you Mary is fine. She's fine, now drop it."
In November 2021, Fusari was sentenced to life without parole for first-degree murder and an additional 15 to 30 years for first-degree child abuse. When the judge pronounced their life sentence, Seth's mouth dropped open in shock, and Fusari started crying. This couple got what they deserved. However, this wasn't the only time a convict got a sentence that felt like justice. There was the case of Esteban Carpio. This is Esteban Carpio, who is facing charges for murder in Rhode Island. Carpio is an American murderer who killed a detective at a Providence police station in 2005. Providence Police Detective Sergeant James L. Allen and another detective were questioning Carpio at the Providence Police headquarters for accosting an 85-year-old woman, Madeline Gata. According to police reports, the second detective left to the third-floor interview room to retrieve some water. It was here where things took a turn for the worst.
Carpio had asked for water, and the two detectives that were in there with him, one left to go get the water and locked the door behind him. And they tragically heard Detective Allen say, "I think he's going to kill me. He's got my gun, he's going to kill me." By the time they broke it down, the officer was dying, and Carpio had jumped out the window.
However, he was recaptured a few minutes later amid struggles. That was not the end of the drama. Due to the risky jump and struggles with the police, Carpio sustained injuries. When it came time for his sentencing, Carpio came to court wearing a mask designed to keep him from spitting at or biting others. His face was red, bruised, and swollen. When he appeared in court, his family members screamed and accused the police of brutality.
I'm not guilty, Stephen!
The family believed that they forced him to wear the mask to try and hide the brutal revenge beating they gave Carpio behind closed doors. In fact, Carpio's aunt went on live TV to say this.
It's police brutality. He was mentally ill, and he needed help, and we couldn't get it. We tried and tried, and he didn't deserve this.
However, Providence Police Chief Dean M. Esserman argued that Carpio's injuries were sustained when he jumped from the third-floor interview room and resisted arrest. The FBI later investigated the police, but it was concluded that they did not use excessive force.
No civil rights violation when injuries are incident to arrest, meaning if he's fighting the police officers, the officers have the right to use whatever do the subject.
On June 27, 2006, a jury found Carpio guilty of the murder of Detective Allen and the stabbing of Madeline Gatta. Despite his plea of insanity, Carpio was sentenced to life in prison without parole. At first, he showed little reaction to his sentence and remained unmoved. However, later, in an attempt to win over the jury, he was heard apologizing for his actions.
Every day, I face the facts of what I did and what happened.
Carpio claimed he was suffering from mental illness at the time of the crime, but the court didn't entertain the claims. However evil you think Carpio is, how does he compare to Kayla Mendoza, who tweeted this the same night she took 2 girls' lives in a deadly drunk driving crash? This is Kayla Mendoza.
Ms. Mendoza, to 2 counts of DUI manslaughter. It's count 1 and count 3. How do you plead?
Who is facing charges for double manslaughter, among other charges in Florida. The 20-year-old woman who was not licensed to drive 2 women while drunk driving in Fort Lauderdale, Florida on November 17, 2013. Before the crash, Mendoza went to a local bar with her manager and colleagues from her job where she drank 2 fishbowl margaritas. A few hours later, Mendoza got behind the wheel of a Hyundai Sonata and drove the wrong way on the Sawgrass Expressway.
Kayla hopped into her car and went speeding the wrong way down the freeway at more than 80 miles an hour. She collided head-on with another car, killing these 2 beautiful young women, Marissa Cotroneo and Caitlin Ferrante, both just 21.
Mendoza was charged with 2 counts of DUI manslaughter while impaired, 2 counts of DUI manslaughter with an unlawful blood alcohol level, 2 counts of vehicular homicide, and 2 counts of driving without a license causing death. His then-boyfriend owned the Hyundai Sonata involved in the crash and explained that the "too drunk to care" tweet was directed toward him.
The "too drunk to care" tweet was for my boyfriend because he was upset I was out, hanging out with them and with Marcelo drinking because he wanted me to be home.
The Ferrante and Cotroneo families filed lawsuits against Mendoza, her boyfriend, the T-Mobile store where Mendoza was employed, and the Tijuana Taxi Company. On May 4, 2015, 2 months after pleading guilty to 2 DUI manslaughter charges, Mendoza was sentenced to 24 years in prison. Mendoza was apologetic throughout the trial. When she heard her sentence, her apology and crying intensified.
No matter how much time passes, I'm going to live with that in my heart every day.
After her sentence of 6 years of probation and is permanently banned from driving a motor vehicle. Mendoza's apologies and remorse showed that she may yet be saved. However, the same cannot be said for Adrian Dunn. This is Adrian Dunn, who is facing charges for murder in San Antonio. Adrian, an ex-convict, was sentenced for the murder of Rakeem Tariq Charles. Police said that Adrian shot Charles in the back during a drug deal in a parking lot on July 16, 2012. To make matters worse, this wasn't even Dunn's first encounter with law enforcement.
To prison twice for possessing a firearm after this murder. He committed another shooting a month before this murder, and he's shown zero remorse.
Prosecutors urged the jury to impose the maximum sentence, noting that Adrian had an extensive criminal history and had shown no remorse for the murder. Prosecutor Jason Goss can be seen here holding the hand of the victim's parents. Before arguing to the jury that a life sentence was necessary to prevent another family from suffering, as Charles' family had.
Her son, who has to suffer, and this family who has to suffer because of the defendant. And that's why we're asking you for a life sentence.
If you thought the crimes were horrendous, wait till you see how Adrian reacted to his sentence. Throughout the trial, Adrian showed no remorse and couldn't have been less concerned. He was found guilty. Still, his attorney argued that a sentence of 35 to 40 years would be more appropriate. His reasoning?
Don't give Adrian a chance to go into prison and try to make something of himself
so that when he gets out, if he ever gets out, he can try to be an asset to our community.
However, the jury deliberated for just 2 hours before returning with a sentence of life in prison. As the jury's decision was read out, Adrian began to fight with Bexar County Sheriff's deputies attempting to escort him from the courtroom. Dunn's behavior was marked by profanity and outbursts. He was eventually subdued and removed from the court. Adrian's case can be termed a drug case gone bad. However, while he remains stoic and combative, there are other convicts who break down in court and feel genuine